I want you to look at a crowd of people, maybe in a stadium or on a busy street. They all look different. Different skin colors, different heights, different faces. But genetically speaking, this is an illusion. Compared to other animals, humans are clones. Two chimpanzees sitting next to each other in a forest often have more genetic differences than a human from Norway and a human from Korea. We are incredibly, suspiciously similar. Why? Because about 74,000 years ago, something happened. Something terrible. Something killed almost everyone on Earth. The human race was reduced to a tiny population. Some estimates say we dropped to as few as 2,000 breeding individuals. We were rarer than the Bengal tiger is today. We were on the brink of total extinction. This is the story of the Toba Catastrophe, the winter that almost ended us. It happened on the island of Sumatra in modern-day Indonesia. There was a mountain there. We call it Lake Toba today, but back then it was a supervolcano. We throw around the word volcano lightly. We think of Mount St. Helens or Vesuvius, but Toba was a monster. It wasn't just an eruption. It was an event that broke the planet. When Toba blew, it ejected roughly 3,000 cubic kilometers of rock and ash into the sky. To give you a sense of scale, Mount St. Helens ejected 1 cubic kilometer. Toba was 3,000 times larger. It was the largest volcanic eruption in the last 25 million years. The explosion itself vaporized everything within hundreds of miles. But the explosion isn't what almost killed humanity. The killer was the ash. Billions of tons of sulfur dioxide shot into the stratosphere. It spread around the globe like a blanket, blocking out the sun. The sky turned gray, then dark, then black. Photosynthesis stopped. Plants died. The animals that ate the plants starved. The animals that ate the animals starved. The global temperature plummeted. The Earth entered a volcanic winter that lasted for 6 to 10 years. Imagine 10 years without a summer, 10 years of snow in the tropics, 10 years of darkness. At this time, early humans had already migrated out of Africa. They were living in India and Asia, but they weren't ready for this. They were hunter-gatherers. They relied on nature, and nature had just turned off. The ash covered the ground in India 6 inches deep. We have found stone tools from that era buried under the Toba ash layer. The humans in Asia likely died out completely. The cold and the hunger took them. The only survivors were small, isolated pockets of humans in Africa, likely clinging to the coastlines where they could eat shellfish to survive the famine. This was the Great Bottleneck. Every single person alive today, you, me, and everyone you know, is a descendant of that tiny group of survivors. We are the children of the luckiest people who ever lived. If just a few more tribes had died, if the winter had lasted just 2 years longer, the human story would have ended right there. There would be no pyramids, no internet, no moon landing, just a quiet planet recovering from a fever. This theory helps explain another mystery. What happened to the other human species? We used to share this planet. There were Neanderthals in Europe. There were Denisovans in Asia. There was Homo erectus. There were the hobbits on islands. But they all vanished. While humans survived the bottleneck and eventually repopulate the world, the other species never recovered. The Toba eruption might have been the final nail in the coffin for our cousins. It weakened them enough that when we eventually met them, we could overtake them. Toba cleared the board for Homo sapiens. But this isn't just history. It is a warning. Supervolcanoes didn't disappear. They are still here. The most famous one is Yellowstone in the United States. Yellowstone is alive. It breathes. The ground rises and falls as magma shifts underneath it. If Yellowstone were to erupt with the same force as Toba, it would be the end of the United States and likely the end of modern civilization. The ash would cover the grain belts of America and Russia. Global agriculture would collapse instantly. We wouldn't die of cold, we would die of hunger. We think our technology makes us safe, but you can't eat an iPhone. You can't download a wheat field. We are just as vulnerable to the sky turning black as our ancestors were 74,000 years ago. The only difference is that there are 8 billion of us now. But geneticists remind us we are still that same small tribe. We are a big family with very little variation. We survived the fire once. The question is, can we survive it again? So, look at your hand. Look at the person next to you. You are looking at a miracle of survival. You are walking proof that 74,000 years ago, a small group of people refused to give up in the dark. I am your host. Don't wake the volcano. Subscribe.